victories that I love so dear bring the power of a new era to me!
What's going on, guys? It's Tego White here for Team Cardfighters United, and I'm here with you guys for another bargain bin deck profile because, I mean, I would say that I'm buying these to show you guys, but I'm also buying these because I'm slightly obsessed. But today I've got with you guys the Kagero Blaze budget deck. This deck was around $20 to $25. Do not remember exactly. I do not have my full G-Zone yet, but I will pretty soon. But let's just get into the deck profile. Remember, if you have any other budget decks you would like me to do, just leave in the comments below. Let's get started. First up, we have our starter, which is going to be Dragon Knight Sadag, if it'll ever focus. There you go. You can put this unit into your soul whenever your rear guard is put in the drop zone to the effect of one of your cards, and if you do, you can choose one of your opponent's rear guards and retire it. So basically, if you use another skill to retire a rear guard, you can pop this guy in your soul to make them retire another, which is really good and will help you with set up your Blaze. Now, the boss card of this deck is not Blade Master. Obviously, this is a budget deck. It's going to be 4 copies of Wyvern Stray Galgi. Galgi has the Blaze ability, and if you do not know how the Blaze ability works, it's like this. At the beginning of each of your attacks, if you have more rear guards than your opponents, your Vanguard becomes blazing. So basically, your Vanguard doesn't have to have Blaze for it to go off because it's Vanguard rear guard, which is why Blade Master works in the deck. But so when you start your first attack, your Vanguard is blazing if you have more rear guards than your opponent. And then when you start if it not, then you don't. But if you attack rear guard and kill it, and then the start of your next attack, if you have more, then there's another chance for blazing to happen. It's a really good skill. His secondary skill, which is one of the main reasons that I run this guy as my main grade 3, is that whenever one of your units attacks a Vanguard, if the unit is blazing, the attacking unit gets plus 3,000 until the end of turn, which is really good. So if you have, like, there's a card in here that's an 11k attacker, another card that's like a 15k attacker, it's either 15 or 16. It's 16k attacker, then they instantly get plus 3, making them hit a lot harder by themselves, which is really good. Which means whenever this guy's blazing, and if you're in Generation Break and he swings by himself, he's a 14k, which is okay. Then he has the usual on-place, Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, search top 5 cards for a card with a Blaze ability, put it in your hand, shuffle your deck. Because we run the Blaze Perfect Guard, you can easily use this card to search for a Perfect Guard, which is really good. Next, we have 2 Dragon Knight Biscuit, and by Biscuit, I mean Baswib, but I'm going to call him Biscuit, no one can stop me, who has the Blaze ability, just like the other grade 3, and it is when this unit attacks, if your Vanguard's blazing, it gets plus 5,000 into battle. So this is the 16k attacker I was talking about. So on rear guard, if your Vanguard's blazing, he can swing for 16. If you're on Galgi, then he will be a 19k attacker, which is really good, especially because we have Blaze boosters. Then, probably my favorite card in the deck, 2 copies of Sutherland. This is the new Sutherland, which is really cool. He's meant specifically for Blaze. And he's an 11k, obviously, grade 3, with the Blaze ability. And his first skill, Vanguard Rear Guard, when your other unit is placed in the same column as this unit, you can pay the cost to choose one of your opponent's rear guards in the same column as this unit and retire it. So whenever you call a rear guard behind Sutherland, you can retire something in the same column, which is really good for a counterblast. And then if your Vanguard's blazing and you have Escort Dragon Attendant Rios, which is the Blaze Perfect Guard in the same column, it gets plus 4, making him a 15k attacker. But if you're on Galgi, he will be a 17? Yeah. So that's all of my grade 3s. Now on to my grade 2s. First we have, a lot of these cards are retrained, just like the cards in the Legend deck. And up here we have 4 copies of Dragon Knight Nadim. Dragon Knight Nadim's skill is Blaze. So he is searchable with your main grade 3. And then he has Auto Rear Guard when it attacks. If your Vanguard's blazing until the end of this battle, it gets plus 2. Since Blaze is not G, you can use this skill before you hit G break. So when you're on grade 2, if you call this guy and you have more rear guards than your opponent, he's an 11k attacker, which is really good. And the second part of his skill is rear guard, but this part is generation break, and it is when he hits countercharge. So he is the countercharge in your deck. Not the only countercharge, because there's one card in here that is a lot better. He's a 4 of. The next card I run as a 4 of is a card from the Overlord Blaze Legend deck, Berserk Lord Dragon. Basically what I use him for is his skill is to counterblast one of your grade 4 Greater Vanguard attacks, to choose one of your opponent's grade 2 or less rear guards and retire it. Basically I use this to set up for Blaze. Like if they have a full field, what I do is I go into Berserk Lord I call Berserk Lord after I strode, then I swing with my stride and retire one of the rear guards. And since a lot of my I have some strides that retire themselves, so it just adds up. And in my last grade 2, which is a really good card for early game, and also to help get some soul for some of their skills, is Apex Dragon Mage Kimnara, another card that is a retrain of an old card. He has Blaze, and he is not G-Break, so it's really useful early game. Counterblast 1 and put this unit into your soul. At the end of the battle, this unit attacked. If your Vanguard is blazing, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose one of your opponent's grade 1 or greater rear guards and retire it. This is a really good skill, just because of the fact that if you attack with him, you can counterblast, put him into the soul, retire something, then make him go off to retire something else. So getting rid of 2 rear guards really early for a counterblast and moving 2 cards in your soul. So you're basically counterblasting and then soul charging 2, almost, to get rid of 2 things in your opponent's field, which is really helpful. We're on to the grade 1s now, starting off with our Blaze Perfect Guard, Escort Dragon Attendant Rios, who is my other favorite card in this deck, along with Sutherland. Its skill is, it has Blaze, and it's obviously a normal Perfect Guard. It only can choose the Vanguard, so it's just like normal the G Perfect Guards. Like when you call it, it's placed from hand, you can choose your Vanguard if it's being attacked and negate it. And then its other skill is at the end of the battle that it boosts, if your Vanguard's blazing, you can Soul Blast 1 to return it to your hand. So basically, you use it with Sutherland. This is the main reason you need Soul Blast. So you have Sutherland in your rear guard circle, call us behind it, counterblast one with Sutherland, kill something in the same column, end of the turn, Soul Blast 1, put it back in your hand to have for perfect guarding. If you didn't need the perfect guard, the next turn, call it, counterblast, kill something. End of the battle, Soul Blast, put it back. So it combos extremely well with Sutherland, which is really cool since Rios is an old card that's been retrained, just like a lot of the cards in this deck. And the old Rios was actually the 10k booster for the grade 3 Sutherland, so that's just really cool. I really like it. Another card that helps this deck hit really hard, seeing as a lot of these things are, like we have the 16k attacker, and then the 11k Nadim, so a lot of this stuff is just hitting really hard, is Dragon Dancer Marcel. Marcel's skill is Blaze, and then the secondary skill is Generation Break 1. When it boosts, if your Vanguard's blazing, it becomes a 9k booster. And when your unit's attack hits a Vanguard, look at the 5 cards in the top of your deck, search for the 1 card with the Blaze ability from among them, reveal it to your opponent, put it in your hand, shuffle your deck. Basically, when he hits, you can look at the top 5, search for 1 with Blaze, put it in your hand. So if you hit while this is boosting, you can search for a Perfect Guard, search for Stride Fodder, grade 2s, literally almost anything in this deck. There are very few cards in this deck that are not Blaze. Like, so far, the cards we've covered, the only ones that do not have Blaze are the starter, which you wouldn't be able to search that anyway because it's going to be on your field, and Berserk Lord. And then another card we have that does not have the Blaze ability is Dragon Monk Gyokiryu. Gyokiryu is not a Blaze card, but it is really strong, because whenever your opponent's rearguard is put into the drop zone to the effect from one of your cards, this unit gets +5. So say you have it in your back row, and you're in G, and you use the skill of Kimnara, or if you use the skill of Sutherland, he can get +5. If you saved this guy and use his skill, Gyokiryu is going to be a +10, making him a 16k attacker, just like Biscuit. So it's just really strong, especially if you have this boosting it, and then it's a 16k attacker with a 9k boost, making it a 25k column with an on-hit search skill. This guy is really good for giving you defense in Blaze, because basically you, similar to, I'm trying to remember the name of the skill. It's the not Gold Paladin, but the Royal Paladin skill, Brave. Yeah, that's what it's called. Similar to that, you're going to be using a lot of resources from your hand because you're going to want to have more cards than your opponent. So you have to call a lot because you want to have more cards in your field. This guy is going to help you with that because at the end of the battle that these units attack you're boosted, if your Vanguard's blazing, you can bind him face up. This is not a G skill, so you can use this early in the game. And then he has Bind Zone Generation Break 1 skill. At the beginning of the guard step that your Vanguard is attacked, you can call his card to Guardian. If you do, it gets plus 5k. So you can use him as a booster early on and then send him to your Bind Zone. And then later, when your Vanguard's being attacked, when you're low on hand because you've been calling things for your Blaze, you can call this guy for free from your Bind Zone as a 10k. So that's really helpful. I run 2 of him, and that is Dragon Knight Roya. And then now we are on to the last grade 1, who is the countercharge of the deck. Like, this card is fantastic. It's basically going to get you 2 cards countercharge and 1 card in Soul, which is going to help for Rios. It is Energy Flame Athonic. Yeah, I'm used to calling him at Nikki just because I play on CFA, and that's the translated name. Basically what he does is you put him into the Soul. When your opponent's rear guard is put in the drop zone from the effect of one of your cards, you can choose 2 cards in your damage zone, turn them face up. So you can countercharge 2 by putting him into Soul whenever something on your opponent's field is retired, which I think is really good. And like, this deck is so fun to play, and it pulls off a lot of crazy combos that I really enjoy. Again, it was only about 20 to 25 bucks, so it's literally nothing to get this deck compared to a lot of meta decks, because as you know, we don't like meta. Now let's go on to the triggers. 4 of probably the coolest crit in the game, or at least for Kagero, Spirit Burn Dragon, which I really want. That's the only crit that I got that I was really looking at that I liked a lot. Like, these 2 other triggers I got because they were cheap. Although I like their artwork, just not as much as some other cards I was going to get. Lizard Soldier Gorora, that quit. I liked like some kind of Draco kid. He looks like a little baby Dragonic Overlord. He's adorable. He's got like a gun or something. Now on to this. I know what you're thinking. Stand Trigger and Kagero. I literally asked my friends that play Kagero, hey, what is something you're not supposed to do in Kagero? They're like, oh, well, make sure you don't run any stand triggers. I said, got you. I'm going to go look and see if there's any good stand triggers. Because, as you know, I like playing things the way you're not supposed to. Seeing as I run 12 stand triggers in my Nova Grappler deck, and I also have a thing for stand triggers. This one is actually really good, because it is a Blaze stand trigger, so it is searchable with any of those skills. So if you wanted to search it, like say you know you're going to need guard power next turn and you're lacking on that, you can search for it. It also has a really good skill. You can put it at the bottom of your deck. Whenever your Vanguard becomes blazing, you can pay the cost. If you do, draw a card, choose one of your units, it gets plus 5k till the end of the turn, then shuffle your deck. So you basically can call it behind something, and then when you start to attack, if your Vanguard becomes blazing, you can send it to the bottom of your deck, give a unit plus 5, preferably the unit that was in front of this, because then it's like it was still there to boost, and then draw a card, which is really good because you're sending a trigger back to your deck, you're drawing a card, and you're giving something plus 5, so it's no negative there, it's only plus. It's a really good card, especially even though you're putting it on the bottom, you're going to be shuffling a lot because that searches and that searches, so there's a lot of searching going on. Then lastly, we have our heal trigger. The heal I wanted was the one that looks similar to Spirit Burn. It's like Protect Orb or something like that, but it was really expensive because it's a Flame Dragon, so you know how it is, because everybody's getting Flame Dragons. This is Dragon Dancer Barbara. Still, I love the artwork on all of these cards. I just preferred the artwork for those other 2 cards because, I don't know, just something about them I liked. Alright, we're going to be moving on to the strides. I do not have all the strides that I was wanting because I didn't have the money for them at the time. They weren't too expensive. I had $12, and people gave me like a lot of the stuff that I needed. Even though I found out how much the deck was, then a lot of people gave me stuff, and then I had like $12, so I got the rest of the main deck that I needed and a couple strides. But I'm missing a few things. Like I said, this deck is $20, $25. So I'll go over what I do have. Okay, the first stride is Flame Emperor Dragon King Ares Dragon. He's he was pretty cheap. Basically, what he is on hit, Soul Blast 1, retire a column. So not bad at all. He's a pretty good stride. Even though he's an on hit, he will retire a whole column, which will help you next turn for your Blaze. And then I have Muhammad, which is just when he hits, retire a rear guard. So that is also just a card there to help for getting into the Blaze. And then the boss card of the whole deck. Like, there was my stride, not my stride, my grade 3 that I had as my main grade 3, but this is the boss of the whole deck. I love this card. Novo Vagal Express. This card is literally only like 70 cents, which is unbelievable because it is probably, in my opinion, it's my favorite stride in Kagero. Like, I like it better than the Ace and a lot of the stuff like that. And what it does is, you Generation Break 2, choose a face-down card named Transcendence Divine Dragon Novo Vagal Express from your G-Zone and turn it face up. And at the end of the turn, this unit gains. During the battle that this unit attacks a Vanguard, your opponent cannot call grade 1 cards from hand to Guardian Circle, which is really good. So basically, whenever you use this, you counterblast 1 and they can't perfect guard it. And also, if they have 5 cards in their G-Zone, their trigger effects are nullified. So when you use this card, if your opponent's on 5 damage, they can't Miracle Heal. Which is, like, literally, it goes... I've had so many people that when I've played a Miracle Heal against this, I got a crit, and somebody double healed when I was using this, so they couldn't do anything because they had more than 5 damage. So their effects were nullified. Honestly, this is all I really need in the strides, but my G Guardians is where I can have a lot of money. Right now, all I have is Azalorb Dragon, which is just whenever your opponent has 4 or less rear guards, so if they don't have a full field, it's a 20k. I need 1 more of that, and I need 2 Denial Griffin, is honestly what I want, but it's a $6 card, so it's not as cheap. It's just really helpful in the deck. So if you can afford to get 1 or 2 of those, it's really good. But you can just grab some of these. He's not very expensive, and just run your Cray Elementals with it. So that's it for this video today, guys. Keep in mind, I do plan on doing a budget deck for Thavas. So I know Thavas is a very popular deck, but I managed to build a deck for Thavas for only about $20. And it is really good. Like, if any of you were on our last stream, I used it against Mac, and it was just a fun time because he was using his strongest deck, and I managed to beat him. It was fantastic. There's also another deck that I do plan on doing for the budget decks, and I will show you real quick what the deck focuses on. It is actually a Legion deck for Gold Paladin that will focus on this Legion right here. I love Liberators. They're just, expensive. But I will plan on doing this. I've played with it several times, and this deck actually has my favorite card in Vanguard in it. I know, it's not Gold Brutal. That's pretty surprising. My actual favorite card in Vanguard right here is a Gold Paladin. So I will be doing one of that as soon as I get the cards for it. That's just next time I have money to get cards, I will be getting the Thavas Wave budget deck and the Liberator Legion budget deck. So remember, guys, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. This has been Takeo White for Team Cardfighters United. Peace.